Ladies and gentlemen, every decision we make, every action we take, every word we speak is influenced by one thing more than we often realize: our emotions. Emotions are powerful. They can ignite motivation, creativity, and connection, but they can also cloud judgment, fuel regret, and derail dreams. The truth is simple: if you want to shape your future, you must first master the state you're in today. Controlling your emotions is not about suppressing them. It's about understanding them, guiding them, and channeling them in a way that serves your goals. Think about the moments when anger took over or fear held you back. How many opportunities were lost? How many relationships strained? The greatest leaders, the innovators, and the achievers didn't always avoid strong emotions. They learned to navigate them. They understood that emotions are signals, not dictators. They became the observers of their feelings rather than slaves to them. The first step is awareness. Recognize the emotional triggers in your life. Notice how your body reacts, how your thoughts shift, how your behavior changes. Awareness is not judgment, it is insight. Only by understanding your emotions can you respond rather than react. Next is choice. Every moment presents a decision. Will I let my frustration control my words, or will I respond with thoughtfulness? Will fear paralyze me, or will it fuel preparation and courage? You have more control than you think. Choosing how to respond, even in the most challenging situations, is the bridge between emotion and action. Finally, practice discipline. Emotional control is a skill, and like any skill, it requires repetition. It's practicing patience when provoked, humility when praised, and calm when threatened. Over time, this discipline rewires your mind. Decisions become deliberate. Actions become purposeful. And when you consistently control your emotions, you start to control your destiny. Destiny is not a distant, uncontrollable force. It is the result of countless small decisions made with clarity, courage, and emotional mastery. The person who can recognize their emotions, understand them, and channel them toward positive outcomes becomes unstoppable. Remember, your emotions are not the enemy, they are your compass. Learn to read them, guide them, and transform them into your greatest ally. Because when you control your emotions, you don't just navigate life, you shape it. 5 keynotes of the speech: emotions drive actions and decisions, understanding that how we feel directly impacts the outcomes in our lives. Awareness is the first step, observing and acknowledging emotional triggers without judgment. Choice empowers control, deciding how to respond instead of reacting impulsively. Discipline builds mastery, practicing emotional control consistently rewires behavior for long-term success. Control over emotions leads to control over destiny. The consistent alignment of thoughts, emotions, and action shapes the path of your life. Emotions are far more than fleeting feelings. They are the invisible forces that shape our decisions, actions, and ultimately our lives. Every day, whether we realize it or not, our emotions are guiding our choices. Think about a time when frustration or anger dictated your words, when impatience led you to make a decision you later regretted, or when fear held you back from seizing an opportunity. These are not isolated moments. They are examples of how emotions, when left unchecked, can subtly and powerfully control our actions. It's easy to believe that our choices are entirely rational, that we act based solely on logic and reason. But the truth is that emotion is the lens through which we interpret every experience. Even our most deliberate decisions are filtered through emotional states, whether positive or negative. Understanding this is crucial because when we recognize that emotions are the driving force behind behavior, we gain insight into how much power we actually have over our lives. Emotional awareness is the first step toward mastery. When a person can pause, reflect, and identify what they are feeling, they can begin to separate the emotion from the impulse. Anger, fear, jealousy, or frustration does not have to dictate the outcome of a situation. It is simply information. It signals that something matters to us, that our values or boundaries are engaged, and that our mind and body are preparing to respond. By seeing emotions as signals rather than commands, we can transform them from obstacles into guides. Moreover, emotions do more than influence immediate decisions. They shape our habits and patterns over time. If every time we feel stressed or anxious, we react impulsively, we create a habit of reactive behavior. This habit then becomes a lens through which we approach every challenge, often without even realizing it. On the other hand, when we learn to understand and regulate our emotional responses, we start to develop habits of deliberate action. A single choice to respond calmly in a heated situation can ripple outward, influencing how we interact with others, how we approach challenges, and how we perceive ourselves. Over time, these repeated choices form the foundation for resilience, confidence, and self-mastery. Emotions also play a critical role in shaping our relationships and social interactions. Consider how often misunderstandings arise not from facts, but from emotional reactions. A sharp word spoken in anger, a withdrawal caused by fear, or a gesture of impatience can create consequences far beyond the immediate moment. Leaders, innovators, and successful individuals understand that emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, interpret, and guide one's emotions, is as important as technical skill or intellect. People are drawn to those who can manage their emotions effectively because such individuals provide stability, clarity, and trustworthiness. Mastering emotions is not just a personal benefit, it is a relational and social advantage that can multiply opportunities for growth and influence. Recognizing the power of emotions also allows us to channel them toward positive outcomes. Emotions are not inherently good or bad, they are energy, and energy can be directed. Passion can fuel creativity, excitement can motivate action, and even fear can sharpen focus when approached mindfully. The key lies in awareness and choice. By acknowledging how we feel and deliberately deciding how to act, we convert raw emotion into purposeful energy. This is the difference between reacting and responding, between drifting through life and steering it. Every emotion we experience holds a potential lesson and an opportunity to act with intention. Ultimately, understanding that emotions drive our actions is an empowering realization. It means that while we may not always control the events around us, we can control the internal landscape from which we respond. By becoming conscious of our emotional states, observing them without judgment, and using them as signals rather than commands, we reclaim the power to shape our behavior. This awareness is the foundation upon which every other skill of personal mastery is built. If we fail to recognize the influence of emotion, we risk allowing life to be dictated by impulses and reactions. But when we embrace this understanding, we gain the ability to choose our responses, craft our habits, and steer the course of our own destiny with intention and clarity. Awareness is the foundation of emotional mastery, and yet it is a skill that is often overlooked. Most of us move through our days on autopilot, reacting to situations without pausing to recognize the emotions that are driving our responses. We feel anger and lash out, we feel fear and hold back, or we feel frustration and make hasty decisions, and all of it happens almost automatically. Awareness is about breaking that cycle. It is about slowing down long enough to notice the subtle signals of our mind and body, to identify what we are truly feeling, and to understand why we are feeling it. Emotional awareness is not merely acknowledging that we feel something. It is about understanding the root cause, the triggers, and the patterns that shape our reactions. When we become aware of our emotions, we gain clarity. Clarity allows us to see beyond the immediate reaction and consider the broader consequences of our actions. For example, when we recognize that our anger is triggered not by the immediate situation, but by a deeper fear of failure or rejection, we are no longer at the mercy of our reaction. We have the space to decide how to respond constructively rather than letting the emotion dictate our behavior. This kind of insight is transformative because it shifts the power from the emotion itself to our ability to respond thoughtfully. It transforms impulsive reactions into deliberate choices, and in doing so, it changes the trajectory of our decisions. Awareness also involves observing patterns over time. By paying attention to our emotional responses, we can identify recurring triggers and habits. Perhaps we notice that we become anxious whenever we are asked to speak in front of a group, or that we react defensively whenever criticism arises. These patterns are invaluable because they point to areas of growth. Emotional awareness is the first step in understanding not only what we feel, but why we feel it and how those feelings influence our actions. Once these patterns are recognized, we gain the ability to interrupt them, to respond differently, and to create new habits that serve our long-term goals. Furthermore, awareness is deeply tied to self-reflection. When we cultivate the habit of examining our emotional states, we begin to understand ourselves more deeply. We start to see the connection between our emotions and our values, our desires and our fears. We recognize that emotions are not random, they are indicators of what matters to us. When we pay attention to them, we gain insight into our priorities, motivations, and even the boundaries we need to protect. This level of self-knowledge is essential for making intentional choices in life. Without awareness, we are blind to the forces shaping our behavior, and our decisions are guided more by impulse than by purpose. Awareness is also a tool for better relationships. Emotions are contagious, and unrecognized feelings often can spill over into interactions with others. A simple irritability can strain a friendship, a moment of impatience can affect a team, and unresolved anxiety can create tension in a family. By cultivating awareness, we can identify these emotions before they negatively impact others. We can pause, breathe, and choose a response that is measured and constructive rather than reactive. Emotional awareness allows us to communicate more effectively, to empathize more deeply, and to navigate interpersonal dynamics with skill and grace. Another important aspect of awareness is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being present, fully experiencing each moment, and noticing our inner state without judgment. When we practice mindfulness, we train ourselves to notice emotions as they arise rather than suppressing or ignoring them. We learn to label feelings, to observe their intensity, and to understand their causes. This practice strengthens our ability to respond rather than react because it creates a pause between stimulus and response. In that pause lies choice, the choice to act in alignment with our values rather than our impulses. Ultimately, awareness is the gateway to control. It is the first step in taking responsibility for our emotional lives. By understanding what we feel, why we feel it, and how it affects our actions, we empower ourselves to respond with intention. We transform our emotions from unpredictable forces into navigational tools. Awareness allows us to step out of autopilot and into conscious decision-making. It gives us the ability to pause, reflect, and act in ways that are aligned with our goals and values. It is the foundation upon which all emotional mastery is built, and without it, control remains an illusion, leaving our destiny at the mercy of forces we fail to recognize. Choice is one of the most powerful tools we possess, yet it is often underestimated. Every moment of our lives presents us with decisions, and these decisions are shaped by the emotions we feel. When we recognize that emotions are driving our behavior, we also realize that we are not powerless. We have the capacity to choose how we respond. Choice is the bridge between emotion and action. It is the moment where awareness meets intention. The realization that we can decide even in the midst of strong feelings is transformative because it shifts us from being victims of circumstance to being architects of our own lives. Consider the situations in life where emotions can easily take control. Anger in a meeting can lead to harsh words. Anxiety before a presentation can freeze performance, or sadness can keep us from pursuing opportunities. In each of these moments, our initial reaction is natural, almost automatic, but is not inevitable. There is always a space, a pause, however brief, between feeling and response. In that space, we have a choice. We can choose to act impulsively, letting the emotion dictate our behavior, or we can pause, reflect, and respond intentionally. This choice is the key to controlling the outcomes in our life. It is not easy because strong emotions demand attention, but it is essential for anyone who wishes to live with purpose and direction. Making deliberate choices requires clarity and self-discipline. Clarity comes from understanding our emotions and the values that guide us. When we know what we stand for, when we understand our priorities and long-term goals, our choices become easier. Decisions are no longer about reacting to the immediate situation. They are about aligning our actions with the life we want to create. Discipline comes from practice. The more we choose to respond thoughtfully, even in small situations, the stronger our ability to exercise choice becomes. Over time, this discipline becomes a habit, and the habit of making deliberate choices forms the foundation for a life of consistency, resilience, and achievement. Choice is also empowering because it creates responsibility. When we understand that our reactions are a matter of choice, we recognize that we are accountable for our own behavior. This is not a burden, but a profound opportunity. No one else controls our response. No external event can force a reaction unless we allow it. By embracing this responsibility, we reclaim control over our destiny. We stop blaming circumstances, other people, or fate, and start focusing on what we can influence: our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. Every choice we make, even in challenging circumstances, contributes to shaping the trajectory of our lives. Furthermore, choice transforms challenges into opportunities. Life is unpredictable, and difficult situations are inevitable. But the way we respond to adversity is within our control. When we choose patience over anger, courage over fear, or understanding over judgment, we turn potential setbacks into moments of growth. Every challenging experience becomes a chance to practice emotional mastery and to strengthen our capacity for deliberate action. The freedom to choose our response turns life's unpredictability into a landscape for personal development rather than a series of uncontrollable events. Choice also impacts our relationships and the influence we have on others. Our responses in moments of tension, disagreement, or conflict set the tone for how others perceive and interact with us. By exercising choice, we model calm, rational behavior and create an environment where constructive dialogue and collaboration are possible. Emotional reactions that are uncontrolled often escalate conflicts and damage relationships, while deliberate choices foster understanding, respect, and trust. The power of choice extends beyond ourselves. It shapes the social and professional worlds we navigate every day. Ultimately, choice is the manifestation of freedom in the midst of emotion. It is the conscious decision to act in alignment with our values rather than our impulses. It is the realization that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. Each moment of choice, taken consistently, compounds into a life of intentionality and purpose. By exercising this power, we begin to see that our destiny is not a product of circumstance or emotion alone, but of the deliberate choices we make when faced with those emotions. Mastery over choice is mastery over life itself. Discipline is the bridge between understanding and action, the steady force that transforms awareness and choice into consistent results. It is one thing to recognize our emotions and to understand that we have the power to choose our responses, but it is another thing entirely to act on that understanding repeatedly, day after day, in every circumstance. Emotional control is not a one-time achievement. It is a practice, a skill that grows stronger the more it is exercised. Discipline is the mechanism through which that practice becomes habit, and habit becomes a defining feature of character and destiny. Without discipline, awareness and choice are fleeting, like sparks that flare brightly for a moment and disappear without creating lasting impact. Developing discipline requires persistence. It is not about perfection, and it is not about never feeling frustration, fear, or anger. Those emotions are natural, inevitable, and even necessary. Discipline is the commitment to act intentionally despite those feelings, to pause, reflect, and respond in ways that align with long-term goals rather than short-term impulses. It is the daily practice of saying, I will not be ruled by this emotion. I will respond thoughtfully and purposefully. This repetition, repeated countless times, strengthens the neural pathways in the brain that govern self-control, making it easier to act deliberately over time. The person who practices this discipline in small moments develops the resilience to do so in larger, more challenging situations. Discipline also requires self-awareness and honesty. It demands that we confront the areas where we are prone to react impulsively and acknowledge the patterns that have held us back. This might mean recognizing that we lose patience easily, that we respond defensively to criticism, or that we procrastinate when fear arises. Once these tendencies are recognized, discipline is the tool that allows us to override them. It is the consistent commitment to act differently, to choose responses that reflect intention rather than habit. The effort is not always comfortable, but it is in that discomfort that growth occurs. Each time we act with discipline, We are rewiring the mind and body to respond in ways that serve our future, not sabotage it. Another important aspect of discipline is consistency. Emotions are unpredictable. Life is unpredictable, and external circumstances are often beyond our control. Yet, discipline provides stability. When we act with self-control consistently, regardless of external conditions, we build a foundation that supports every aspect of life. Relationships improve, performance at work and in personal projects strengthens, and confidence grows because we know we can rely on ourselves even under pressure. Discipline transforms the unpredictable nature of life into a platform for deliberate action, allowing us to maintain direction even in chaos. Discipline also amplifies the impact of our choices. Awareness and choice are powerful individually, but without the repeated practice of discipline, they often fail to create lasting change. The person who responds thoughtfully once in a moment of anger gains insight, but the person who responds thoughtfully every time, day after day, begins to shape their character and influence the trajectory of their life. This is why discipline is so closely tied to mastery. Mastery is not about never making mistakes. It is about the deliberate, repeated action to improve, to act in alignment with goals, and to consistently reinforce the behaviors that lead to success. Moreover, discipline shapes how we handle setbacks. Life will inevitably present challenges, frustrations, and disappointments. Discipline is the capacity to maintain emotional control and act with intention even in the face of adversity. It is the ability to continue the practice of deliberate response, to maintain habits of self-control, and to persevere toward goals even when circumstances are difficult. Over time, disciplined action in the face of adversity builds resilience, strengthens resolve, and cements the understanding that while we cannot control everything that happens, we can control how we respond and the consistency of our efforts. Ultimately, discipline transforms knowledge and intention into tangible results. It is the mechanism through which emotional control moves from theory to reality, from understanding to lived experience. The individual who cultivates discipline develops a life guided by deliberate action, purpose-driven choices, and resilience in the face of emotional challenges. It is the practice of discipline that turns fleeting awareness into sustainable mastery, turning potential into achievement and shaping the trajectory of one's destiny in a powerful and deliberate way. Control over emotions is not just a personal skill, it is the ultimate leverage in shaping the course of our lives. Every moment presents choices, and every choice influenced by emotion has the potential to shape our future. When a person consistently regulates their emotions, they gain clarity in decision-making, consistency in behavior, and resilience in the face of challenges. Control over emotions is what separates those who drift through life from those who steer it with purpose. It is the ability to transform raw feelings into deliberate action, to convert potential chaos into structured growth, and to align daily decisions with long-term goals. When emotions are mastered, they cease to be unpredictable forces and become powerful tools that guide us toward success. Every person experiences moments when emotions feel overwhelming. Fear can paralyze potential, anger can create conflict, and sadness can diminish motivation. Without control, these emotions dictate the path we take. They can turn small setbacks into prolonged failures, minor frustrations into broken relationships, and fleeting worries into missed opportunities. But with control, the same emotions can be harnessed as signals that guide us toward better decisions. Fear can alert us to risk worth preparing for, anger can highlight injustices that need correction, and sadness can illuminate areas of life that require attention or change. Mastery over emotions transforms them from obstacles into indicators, providing insight and direction instead of confusion and limitation. Control over emotions also enhances resilience. Life is unpredictable, and external circumstances will always challenge us. It is impossible to eliminate every difficulty or avoid every stressful situation. However, when we maintain control over our emotional responses, we prevent temporary setbacks from spiraling into permanent derailments. Resilience is not the absence of struggle. It is the capacity to navigate struggle without losing alignment with one's values and goals. When emotions are regulated, challenges become manageable, and even failures serve as stepping stones to growth rather than insurmountable barriers. The person who masters their emotions can recover faster, adapt more effectively, and maintain momentum even under pressure. Another critical aspect of emotional control is its impact on decision making. Emotions, when unchecked, can cloud judgment, distort perspective, and lead to impulsive actions. When mastered, however, emotions provide valuable information that enhances decision making. Emotional intelligence allows us to recognize when we are biased, when we are reacting to temporary feelings rather than facts, and when we need to pause and reflect. By controlling emotional impulses, we can analyze situations with clarity, weigh options objectively, and choose paths that align with both our short-term needs and long-term aspirations. Decisions made from emotional mastery are deliberate, strategic, and consistently aligned with the life we want to create. Control over emotions also amplifies influence and leadership. People are naturally drawn to those who remain calm under pressure, who respond with clarity rather than reactivity, and who can navigate conflict with thoughtfulness. Emotional mastery allows individuals to inspire trust, maintain credibility, and create environments where collaboration and growth flourish. Whether in personal relationships, professional settings, or leadership roles, the ability to regulate one's own emotions directly affects the quality of interactions and the outcomes achieved. Those who master their emotions are able to guide not only their own actions, but also positively influence those around them, creating ripple effects that extend far beyond the individual. Finally, control over emotions is control over destiny because it enables alignment between intention and action. Awareness, choice, and discipline are important, but without the ability to consistently regulate emotions, they cannot fully manifest into results. Emotional mastery ensures that actions are not hijacked by fleeting feelings, but are directed toward deliberate objectives. Over time, this consistency compounds into habits, achievements, and a life trajectory that reflects purpose rather than circumstance. Those who master their emotions navigate life with agency rather than reaction. They are not passive observers of their fate, they are active creators of it. Mastery over emotion transforms potential energy into deliberate impact, uncertainty into direction, and intention into reality, demonstrating that the state of our inner world is inseparably linked to the course of our outer life. In the end, the journey to success, fulfillment, and true personal power begins within. Every decision we make, every path we follow, every opportunity we seize is influenced by the state of our emotions. Awareness allows us to see our feelings clearly, choice empowers us to respond deliberately, discipline ensures that our intentions become consistent action, and control over our emotions transforms these actions into the shaping of our destiny. When we learn to master our emotional world, we no longer drift through life reacting to circumstances. We become the architects of our own future. The truth is simple but profound. Your destiny is not determined by external events, luck, or the actions of others. It is determined by the small, consistent choices you make every day in alignment with your values, guided by your awareness, reinforced by discipline, and tempered by emotional control. Every emotion, every challenge, and every setback is an opportunity to practice mastery, to refine your responses, and to move closer to the life you aspire to lead. Control your emotions and you control your reactions. Control your reactions and you control your actions. Control your actions and you control your destiny. It starts with understanding yourself, continues with intentional choices, grows stronger through disciplined practice, and culminates in the power to shape your life with purpose and clarity. Your emotions are not your enemy. They are your guide, your signal, and your compass. When you harness them, when you align them with conscious decision making, you unlock the ability to create a future defined not by circumstance, but by your deliberate and unwavering will. The path is not easy, and it will test your patience, resilience, and commitment. But every step you take toward mastering your emotions is a step toward mastering your life. Your destiny is waiting, shaped not by chance, but by the power you hold within. Embrace that power, guide it with intention, and watch as the life you envision becomes the life you live.